Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to my sessions. Here, I'm going to help you how to connect two contrasting ideas or statements. You must have heard about a list of words such as in spite of, despite, although, even though. Now you must be knowing that all these words that I've discussed with you, these are the five words. I'm sorry to say, if I talk about in spite of, this is basically an idiom. If I talk about although, it's a conjunction. So that means sometimes we are using either an idiom or a phrase or a conjunction to connect two contrasting ideas. So please watch this video till end so that you understand how to frame a sentence and how you can reverse a sentence. Most probably, you may make a sentence where you are keeping in spite of or despite or although or even though or though at the beginning, and you wish to change the framework of the sentence. You wish to write these any of these five words in the middle of the sentence. Then how the situation will become or it will arise for you. This is a question. I will be discussing with you those things in depth. So let us start the session. I again warmly welcome you and let us start the discussion. In this session, we are going to discuss five words in spite of, despite, although, even though. So that means we are going to learn how to use conjunctions, idioms, or phrases to connect two contrasting ideas. Okay, here, first word that is in spite of. First of all, you must understand that all five words are having the same meaning. That means one side is positive in a sentence and second side is negative in the same sentence. So I'm willing to use any of these five words there. Now the question here is for you whether we can use a phrase or a conjunction or an idiom directly in such situations. If all these words are having the same meanings, then what makes one different from the another? Please understand that although meaning is same, the sentence structures will vary. The sentence structures will vary. If I give an example of two words, let us say in spite of, despite. When you're using these two words, I mean to say despite, which is a conjunction, in spite of, which is an idiom. If you're using an idiom here in spite of, the question is what comes after that? What comes after that? You may have either a noun or a pronoun or a gerund. For example, I can say that in spite of having the pain in her leg, in spite of having the pain in her leg, she participated in a football competition or in a football championship. So that means I used having, which was a gerund. But you cannot use a gerund in case of although, even though, and though. Although the meanings are same for all the words and phrases here. Please understand. So when I'm using although, even though, with these three group of the words, I shall be using a subject and then a verb. I cannot use a gerund, but please note that in case of, in spite of, despite, you are using either a noun or a pronoun or a gerund. But in case of although, even though, you are using a subject and a verb. Okay, so this makes a difference. This makes a difference. This is the main part that you have to learn. Okay, let us understand what the example can we have when using in spite of. In spite of the pain in his leg, he ran a race. So that means if I say that in spite of the pain, in spite of the pain, I'm not using a subject with a verb here. This is what makes it different from although, though, and even though. Okay? In spite of the pain in his leg, he ran a race. So can we make a sentence like that? He ran a race in spite of the pain in his leg. Can I reverse it? Yes, I can do it. When I'm reversing it, I need to put a comma before in spite of. For example, he ran a race, comma, in spite of the pain in his leg. We can also make other sentences using in spite of. You can say that in spite of a huge traffic jam on the road, I managed to reach office timely, or I managed to reach office on time. So that means you are discussing one positive side and one negative side. I managed to reach office on time, comma, in spite of a huge traffic on the road. So that means this is the way you can reverse a sentence as well. Okay. So please understand that when I'm using in spite of and despite, I can use either a noun or a pronoun or a gerund. But I cannot use these words in case of although, though, and even though, because I'm supposed to use a subject with a verb. Correct? Now, next example here is despite having a headache, she enjoyed a lot in the party. Okay, so can I say that despite having faced a number of failures, despite having faced a number of failures, she managed to become prime minister. She managed to become managing director, like that. Okay, so that means I'm sharing two contrasting situations. Although she was not having adequate sources, but still managed to do something. Am I right? This is a scenario here. But I used here a gerund. So gerund makes it different from other sentences from although, though, and even though. So the sentence here was despite having a headache, she enjoyed a lot in the party. Is it clear? I hope you have understood how to use in spite of and despite. Now I will be discussing with you how to use although, even though, and though. So when we talk about although here, if I make a sentence although at the beginning, if I use this word at the beginning, which is a conjunction, let us say how we can use it. I have given one example here. She walked home by herself, although she knew that it was dangerous. So can I reverse this sentence? Please note one more thing. I have written a comma. I have put a comma here. So if I keep it at the beginning, although she knew that it was dangerous, although she knew that it was dangerous, she walked home by herself. So that means you can reverse first part with the second one. So you can keep the second part with all that at the beginning, or you can keep this part in the middle. It is up to you, but you must understand the punctuation part. You must be knowing the thorough. You must be knowing the rules of punctuation thoroughly. Otherwise, you may make a sentence correctly, but you will be committing some errors, some mistakes in punctuation. Okay, so I'm trying to help you to learn how to make a sentence error free. Next part here is even though. So when you are using even though, how you can use it? Even though she left school at 14, even though she left school at 14, she managed to become prime minister. So if I write like that, although she left school at 14, she managed to become prime minister, this is also correct. Even though, although, all these three words can be a substitute for each other, and the sentence framework will remain the same because we have to use a subject then a verb. Okay, we have to use a subject then a verb. So that means you can also make a sentence. If you want to reverse it, you can say that she managed to become a prime minister. She managed to become prime minister although she left school at 14. Correct? So you can make such sentences. It is up to you, but please ensure that you must have a command over the language. Okay? You have to explore it, you have to learn it, but please ensure that the sentences are free from flaws, or we can say that you should make flawless sentences. Next part here is, the next sentence here is though, with though. So if you are using though, the sentence framework will remain the same. Okay. So if you want to replace although using though, this is also correct. You want to replace even though using though, this is also correct. Okay. So that means you are using though at the beginning. Though I was not keen on the film, I thought the music was beautiful. So that means in this sentence, you are again sharing two contrasting ideas. Though you were not keen on the film, so that means you were not focused on the film. You thought the music was beautiful. So if you want to reverse it, you can do it. I thought the music was beautiful, though I was not keen on the film. So in that way, I hope you have understood what are the differences that we can make in sentence structures when we are using these phrases or conjunctions or idioms appropriately. Your sentence structure matters a lot. So, my dear friends, I primarily focused on sentence structures while helping you to learn how to use a conjunction or an idiom or a phrase. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you must have liked that video. We shall be meeting again in the next video. Thanks a lot.